We are all told the same lie, that success is about hustling harder, staying up later, and pushing until we break. But if you look at the most successful people in the world, the ones who actually stay at the top, they aren't burnout. They aren't hustling. They have a system. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on Stephen Bartlett's The Diary of a CEO to reveal the 3 psychological laws that separate the top 1% from the people who are just spinning their wheels. If you're tired of the hustle culture burnout, this is the most important video you'll watch this year. The Foundation of Internal Alignment. Stephen Bartlett, in his book, The Diary of a CEO, presents a brutal truth that most of us refuse to acknowledge. Success is not a destination. It isn't a magical point in time where everything finally clicks and the struggle disappears. Instead, success is a psychological alignment. Most of us are operating with a faulty operating system. We are trying to build skyscrapers on a foundation of sand because we prioritize external markers. The salary, the job title, the social media validation, and the applause of people who don't actually care about our long-term growth. Bartlett argues that this dependency on external validation is the fastest way to stay insecure and inconsistent. When you seek external validation, you are effectively handing over the keys to your drive to people who do not know your vision. Consider the typical high performer. They work exceptionally hard as long as the promotion is in sight, or as long as they are receiving positive feedback. But what happens when the promotion doesn't come? What happens when the audience stops clapping? Or worse, when they start criticizing? For the person seeking external validation, the motivation dies instantly. They burn out, they lose their focus, and they eventually quit. Real sustainable growth requires a radical shift. You have to move from asking, "Does this look good to others?" to asking, "Does this meet my own standard of excellence?" When your validation becomes internal, your work quality no longer depends on an audience. You perform at a high level simply because that is who you are, not because of what you might get in return. This is the difference between a contractor who does the bare minimum to get paid and a master craftsman who obsessively polishes the parts of the product that no one will ever see. I want you to pause for a second and reflect on your current project. Is your work driven by your own mission or by the fear of being perceived as average? Most of us are terrified of being average, so we spend our energy trying to appear successful rather than actually being effective. We curate our online presence. We talk about our hustle, but our actual output is mediocre. Internal validation demands honesty. It demands that you sit with yourself and admit where you are falling short, even when no one else is watching. This psychological shift is the prerequisite for everything else we will discuss. If you don't anchor your success in your own standards, you will always be a slave to circumstances. In the next section, we are going to move beyond the mindset and into the mechanics of performance. Specifically, why the obsession with intensity is actually a trap that is keeping you from achieving your goals. We have a lot of ground to cover to build this framework, so let's get into the hard reality of how high performers actually operate on a daily basis. The intensity trap and the science of rhythm pause. Now that we have established the importance of internal validation, we need to address the most dangerous myth in the productivity space, the intensity trap. In the U.S. culture of business and entrepreneurship, we are constantly bombarded with the idea that we must crush it, hustle until you drop, and outwork everyone. We believe that the more effort we exert in a single burst, the faster we will reach our goals. Stephen Bartlett warns that this obsession with intensity is perhaps the single biggest reason why talented people fail to reach their full potential. When you operate on pure intensity, you are essentially treating your life like a sprint. You work 16 hours a day for a week, fueled by caffeine and sheer willpower, only to experience a total collapse the following week. This is the boom and bust cycle. It feels like you are making progress because you are exhausting yourself, but you are actually sabotaging your nervous system and your long-term cognitive function. Intensity is a finite resource. You cannot wake up every single morning and perform at 100% maximum capacity. If you try to force it, you will eventually hit a wall of burnout, which leads to weeks of procrastination and feelings of guilt. High performers do not operate on intensity, they operate on rhythm. Think about the most successful athletes or elite CEOs. They do not have good days and bad days based on how they feel. They have a system that keeps them moving forward regardless of their emotional state. Bartlett explains that success is not the result of heroic, once-in-a-lifetime efforts. It is the result of thousands of boring, consistent, and mundane actions stacked on top of one another. The secret is not to go fast. The secret is to ensure that you never actually stop. Consider the compounding effect of consistency. If you decide to commit to a major goal, do not start by trying to do as much as possible. Start by doing the minimum viable version of that goal consistently. If you want to write a book, don't try to write 5,000 words a day. Write 200. If you want to start a business, don't try to build the entire product in a month. Improve one feature a day. This sounds simple, perhaps even beneath you, but that is exactly why it works. When you lower the barrier to entry, you eliminate the mental resistance that causes procrastination. By focusing on rhythm rather than intensity, you remove the all-or-nothing mentality that traps so many people. You stop viewing your progress as a series of peaks and valleys and start viewing it as a steady upward climb. This shift also protects your mental health because you are not putting your entire identity on the line for a single massive effort. You remain calm and resilient. You have the bandwidth to pivot when things go wrong and the patience to endure the long periods of slow growth that define any great endeavor. The bottom line is this: intensity is for amateurs who want to feel like they are working hard. Rhythm is for professionals who are committed to getting results. You need to ask yourself if you are truly working toward a result, or if you are simply using intense bursts of activity to distract yourself from the uncomfortable reality that you lack a sustainable system. If you want to build something that lasts, you have to find a pace that you can maintain for years, not just for a week. In our next segment, we are going to look at the environment you live in, because even the best rhythm in the world will break if your surroundings are designed to pull you in the opposite direction. The architecture of your environment. Now that we have covered the internal mindset and the necessity of rhythm, we have to address the invisible architect of your life. Your environment. You can have the best intentions and a perfect system, but if your surroundings are built to facilitate distraction, you will lose every time. Stephen Bartlett highlights a crucial insight. Most people blame their lack of progress on a lack of willpower, but in reality, they are fighting a losing battle against a hostile environment. Think of your brain as a high-performance engine. It is designed to process information and solve problems, but it is also heavily influenced by the inputs it receives. If your physical or digital environment is filled with friction, noise, and constant interruptions, your brain will exhaust its limited supply of focus just trying to manage those distractions. You are essentially trying to run a marathon while wearing a weighted vest that you chose to put on yourself. To build a high-performance life, you must become an architect of your own surroundings. This starts by curating your input. In the digital age, the content you consume is the fuel for your thought process. If your daily feed is dominated by rage bait, mindless entertainment, or low-value information, you are training your brain to seek distraction rather than clarity. The most successful individuals are ruthless about what they let into their space. They curate their social media feeds, the newsletters they read, and the people they spend their time with. Ask yourself, are you surrounded by people who challenge your thinking and push you toward a higher standard? Or are you surrounded by those who normalize your current limitations? Your environment isn't just the room you sit in. It's the network of information and human connection you maintain. If you want to change your output, you must change your inputs. Create a space where doing the work is the path of least resistance. Keep your tools ready, minimize the friction of starting, and systematically remove the digital distractions that crave your attention. When you design your environment correctly, you no longer have to rely on discipline. You simply exist within a system that makes success inevitable. The shift to purpose. Finally, we arrive at the missing piece that separates those who succeed from those who burn out. The transition from performance to purpose. Most people chase success because they want the result, the status, the money, or the freedom. But Bartlett argues that these are merely byproducts. If you anchor your life entirely to these outcomes, you will eventually reach a point of diminishing returns. Once you have the money or the status, the motivation fades. This is the success trap that leaves many high achievers feeling empty even after they have made it. Purpose is the only thing that sustains you when the performance gets difficult. When you are driven by a mission that is bigger than your own ego, the work stops being a burden. It becomes a reflection of your values. High performers don't just work to get paid. They work because they are solving a problem they genuinely care about. This shift from what I get to what I contribute changes your relationship with failure. When you have a purpose, failure is not a reflection of your worth. It is simply data on how to refine your approach. If you want to build a career that lasts, you need to find the intersection of your skill, your curiosity, and a problem in the world that needs solving. Don't just look for a way to climb a ladder. Look for a way to build something that outlives your current project. To recap what we've covered today, success is about internal validation, not external applause. It is about the rhythm of consistency, not the intensity of the sprint. It is about curating your environment to make focus easy. And finally, it is about anchoring your actions in a purpose that transcends simple output. If you found value in this breakdown and you want to continue sharpening your mindset, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are building a community here for people who are serious about their growth. What is the one change you are going to make to your environment or your daily rhythm starting today? Drop a comment below. I read every single one of them. This has been your deep dive into the Diary of a CEO. Keep pushing, keep refining, and I'll see you in the next one.